Hello everyone, welcome to day 4 of the Community Campus Ministry Quarantine Challenge. And today's challenge is to pray at least one of the Liturgy of the Hours. It's also commonly called the Divine Office. In fact, there are many other terms for it, but those are the two most common that I have heard it called. So quick, brief background first. The idea of praying certain prayers throughout specific times of the day really has its roots in our Jewish spiritual ancestry. It's believed that the Jews prayed the Psalter, which is a collection of hymns and the Psalms specifically, at certain times of the day for many centuries before Jesus was ever born. And as a devout Jew, Jesus would have prayed the Psalter himself. In fact, he often quoted from it. And as we see in Acts of the Apostles several places, chapter 10, verse 3, chapter 10, verse 9, chapter 16, verse 25 to be specific, the apostles themselves seem to have continued on this tradition of praying certain prayers and psalms and hymns at certain times of the day. We see them mentioned 3 o'clock, noon, midnight in those readings. And in the early church then, after the apostles, it most likely kind of developed into the Mass of the catechumens, think like Liturgy of the Word, first part of the Mass. But it was eventually separated out as a completely separate liturgy altogether from the Mass. And it seems to have been pretty much set in place by the end of the 6th century. So the bottom line is a very ancient practice in the church and is a privilege for us to join in the communion of saints past and present in this public prayer. So the importance of the liturgy hours. This is personally one of my favorite prayers because it unites us to the universal church. Knowing that most likely millions of other Catholics are praying these exact prayers throughout the entire world on this same day is extremely comforting to me. The church deems it so important that all ordained men are obligated to recite them each, except for very serious reasons. In fact, the Congregation for Divine Worship and the Discipline of the Sacraments states that, quote, to admit the hours of morning prayer and evening prayer requires a greater reason still, given that these hours are the double hinge of the daily office. So again, those particular hours especially are very important. So what are the different hours? According to the USCCB website, the following are the 5 hours of the Divine Office. First is the Office of the Readings. Second is morning prayer. Third is daytime prayer, which can be split into mid-morning prayer, midday prayer, and afternoon prayer. Fourth is evening prayer, also called Vespers, probably heard that before. And 5 is night prayer. All right, so where do you find these prayers? Well, there are multiple websites and apps that have all the prayers you need. Some are the full Divine Office, and others are kind of abbreviated versions. I encourage you to really find which platform works best for you. Personally, I pray morning prayer and evening prayer each day. As I said earlier, those are the two, the double hinge, as it said, of the office. I use the Universalis app, which actually is a paid app. It is like $10 or something, but I really like the layout, so that's why I chose that one. And then there are other options for you. iBreviary, Universalis, Laudate, the Magnificat, which normally I know there's a subscription fee, but right now they've waived that for during this quarantine period and stuff. So there are multiple options. Again, it's linked to you at qndcampusministry.com. Just look for day 4 of the quarantine challenge, and all those are linked up there. So in conclusion, I just highly suggest going to one of those platforms and trying it out today. Just pick one, and it's pretty self-explanatory how to pray it. Again, I'd recommend morning prayer, evening prayer. You might even get a group together through Zoom or Google Hangout or something and pray it together. That's what we've been doing for our God Squad in the mornings, now that we can't meet in person, that we do throughout Lent. And just pick, again, one of the hours. Again, I suggest morning or evening prayer, and start there. And begin praying it each day. And you can always add an hour, one of the other hours later. But I've no doubt you'll be blessed by joining this ancient practice of sanctifying the day with the Liturgy of the Hours. God bless.